Welcome to This Is How We Heal with naturopath, herbalist, and author Anthea Koulouros. With over 3 decades of clinical experience guiding thousands on their healing journeys, Anthea invites you into honest, heartfelt conversations about what really gets in the way of health and healing and what gently brings us back to ourselves. If you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, overwhelmed by wellness noise, or just yearning to feel like yourself again, you're in the right place. This podcast is for anyone feeling burnt out, lost in a sea of symptoms, or simply longing for a deeper connection to their health, their body, and their truth.
Hello and welcome. I'm Anthea Koulouros and this is How We Heal, a space where we explore the deeper, often invisible barriers to health and healing. Today's episode is about energy, what it means to feel depleted, and how to begin restoring what has quietly been lost. By the time people come to see me in the clinic, many are navigating the complex and exhausting terrain of chronic symptoms and sustained stress. They arrive not just physically unwell, but energetically spent, caught in a cycle of fatigue that drains them on every level. They're weary not only from their symptoms, but their pain, their discomfort, insomnia, low mood, but also from the long road of trying to heal. The endless searching, the conflicting advice, the feeling no matter what they do, it's never enough. This is a deeper kind of tiredness, not just of the body, but of the heart and mind. It's the fatigue that comes from carrying questions without answers and from living in a world that rarely allows us space to stop. And that weariness deserves to be named. At its core, energy is our capacity to meet life physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. On a cellular level, it's the ATP made by our mitochondria, the molecule that fuels every movement, thought, and breath in our minds and bodies. ATP is like a rechargeable battery. It releases energy when needed and recharges through nutrients from food. But energy is far more than chemistry. It's our inner spark, our vitality, our joy, our ability to meet life with grace. It is not only about how much we can do, but how deeply we can feel, connect, and respond. Traditional systems of healing have always known this. In traditional Chinese medicine, this life force is called qi, the energy that flows through the body's meridians. When qi becomes blocked or depleted, illness reappears. Restoring it through flow of herbs, acupuncture, nourishing food, and mindful movement like Qigong is essential for regaining our vitality. In Ayurveda, energy is known as prana, the breath of life that animates all living things. When prana is low, it shows up as fatigue, anxiety, poor digestion, or disconnection. The remedy is always gentle. Food is medicine, breath work, yoga, meditation, and oils that soothe and replenish. And in homeopathy, it is called the vital force, the body's innate intelligence. When disturbed by trauma or grief, toxins or stress, the body speaks through symptoms. Fatigue here is not a flaw, it's simply communicating, the call to restore alignment from within. Each of these traditions remind us that energy is not something we simply have or don't have. It's a relationship. It's a current that flows through us when we live in rhythm with ourselves and with nature. So what is happening today? Well, we are living through a global epidemic of exhaustion. Our fatigue no longer comes from our famine or labor, but from our overstimulation, constant striving, digital noise, and emotional load. Fatigue has become a social condition. Our bodies are still wired for seasonal cyclical living, but our lives have become linear, always on, always producing, rarely resting. Neuroscientist Stephen Porges, through polyvagal theory, helps us understand fatigue in a new way. When the nervous system experiences ongoing threat or stress, without relief, it can enter a freeze state. The body begins to conserve energy, not because it's broken, but because it's protecting itself. It shuts down non-essential systems to survive the unbearable, the stress. This is not rest. There's a difference. This is what we call withdrawal. And it's not laziness, it's simply the body trying to adapt. We speak of being tired, but often what we really mean is this: we are under-resourced, underheld, or unheld, and unseen. Fatigue in this sense is not just biochemical, it's emotional, it's relational, and it's cultural. And it's when the body is saying no, but the mind keeps saying yes. And yet, there are also very, very real physical reasons for depletion. Let's name them, because healing begins with an understanding. The most obvious are nutritional deficiencies. Beyond iron and B12, which are all very well known for their role in energy, there are others we often overlook. They include iodine, which supports thyroid metabolism, which governs energy production and temperature regulation. And then there's zinc, a busy multitasking mineral which is involved in over 300 enzyme reactions in the body, many of them essential for cellular repair and energy conversion. When these nutrients run low, so does our vitality. And what about poor digestion and absorption, which is very obvious, right? Even with a healthy diet, if your gut is inflamed, unbalanced, or sluggish, you won't absorb nutrients effectively. Dysbiosis, not enough digestive juices, low stomach acid, and it could be because we're on proton pump inhibitors or antacids, or a sluggish bile flow, and bile helps us emulsify fat, can quietly rob the body of fuel. And then we have things like low-grade infections or post-viral fatigue. Some people never feel quite right or never well since that virus. The immune system stays switched on, inflammation lingers, and energy is continually diverted towards defense. And another obvious one is disrupted sleep. Late nights, inconsistent rhythms, and light exposure at the wrong times all interfere with a deep restorative sleep, the phase when the body repairs, detoxifies, and replenishes glycogen stores. And another one that sometimes isn't so obvious is unreplenished energy stores after exercise or long fasting windows. Failing to refuel properly, especially with quality carbohydrates, leaves our glycogen stores empty and our energy low. Here's another one that is obvious, but we never think of them together: chronic pain, inflammation, and depression. Well, they're very energy intensive states. They demand constant internal resources to manage distress signals and emotional load, leaving them less for vitality and joy. So each of these represents a leak in our energetic bucket. To heal, we must first identify and patch those leaks, gently, systemically, and with curiosity, not judgment. But then comes this deeper work, and the deeper work is protecting your energy. Here's what I want you to listen to closely. When you feel tired, rest. When you have your menstrual period, rest. When you've worked all week, rest. When you've been holding space for others, rest. When you've been feeling overstimulated, unplug. And when your body says no, listen. Rest is not idleness. It's how life renews itself through you. In a culture that glorifies pushing through, rest becomes such a radical act. But it isn't laziness, it's simply repair. To rest is to enter a state where the body can mend, the mind can soften, and the soul can catch up. It's presence without demand. And yet, rest can feel so uncomfortable at first. Stillness exposes what we've avoided. For many, it feels unsafe. Busying distracts, numbs, fills the void. That's okay. Begin where you are, but let rest become a practice. Protecting your energy is not about withdrawing. It's about discerning. It's knowing when to step back. It's knowing when to say no and when to prioritize the simple rituals that sustain you. Food, breath, nature, they're all the restorative things, the groundwork for health. Because your energy is sacred and it deserves your protection. So if you're listening and feeling weary, please remember fatigue is just feedback. It's not a failure. It's your body's whispering to stop, slow, and soften. And healing, as we know, begins when we're truly listening and we're very aligned. So we say start small, create rhythm, eat mindfully, sleep deeply, breathe consciously, and let that stillness find you. This is how we begin to restore, not by forcing energy back, not by taking supplements, but by allowing life to move through us again, by reattuning, by aligning, by remembering we are human with human needs and rest is fundamental to being human. When we learn to rest in rhythm with ourselves, we stop glorifying and we stop pathologizing exhaustion. We begin to live differently, aligned, grounded, replenished. It's a returning of who we naturally are. It's becoming someone whose energy is intact, whose vitality is protected, and our presence is whole. So thank you once again for joining me for this episode of This Is How We Heal. And if this spoke to you, please share it with someone who needs the reminder to rest. And if you're ready to explore what's draining your energy, whether it be nutritionally, emotionally, or physically, come see us at my naturopathic clinic and apothecary, or join us in my membership called Staying Healthy Together Club, where we remember and learn to live in rhythm together. So until next time, rest when you're tired, breathe when you're tense, and remember, your energy is sacred.
If this episode spoke to you, your healing journey doesn't have to end here. Join Anthea in her dedicated online community, the Staying Healthy Together Club, a space for real conversations and holistic health education with trusted resources. We'd love to see you there.